In this video, I want to address a question I get from many students, especially those in their early days as C++ developers. And that is, how do I find solutions to problems myself, or how do I describe my problems to search engines so that I can find answers faster by myself? Along the way, we're also going to learn about a common issue many beginners face, and that is called the Most Vexing Parse in C++. So let's get started. Okay, so here we have a class. It is called point. Inside we have two sections, a public section and a private section. We have two member variables, mx, my. They are of double type. And we have a simple function to manipulate those variables. We are just going to print them out, mx and my. Nothing complicated here. We also have a default constructor, which is going to be called when we build an object without specifying the parameters. And we have another constructor, which is going to take two parameters, and it's going to pass those in and assign those to our member variables through our initializer list here. Nothing complicated. So you go on and you say, I have this class, I want to create an object of this class, and I want to use the default constructor here. And you go down and you type point, you give it a name, and let's say P1, and you put your parentheses like this. You say, I have my object, now I can call methods on it, and I can call the printful function here to print the information in the member variables stored in my object here. And you go down and you try to do that. You say P1 and you say printful, and you see that you're not getting autocomplete here, but you say, okay, my IDE must be crazy. Let's autocomplete this myself. So you say printful here, and you still see that you have a squiggly line. What is going on here? Then you run this through the compiler. I am using GCC, so that's what's going to build my application here. And you see, error request for member printful in P1. This is our object P1. Its type is point, so we are sure that it has this method, but it's saying which is non-class type. But point is a class, so what is going on here? Okay, so when you face this problem, you're going to start scratching your head, you're going to break things because you don't know what is really happening here. And if you're lucky, you're going to have somebody more experienced, close to you. They are going to explain this to you. But I think it is even better if you can figure out things on your own. And what we all use is a search engine. So you're going to go to your browser and, for example, use your search engine. Mine is Google. And you want to describe the problem we have here to the search engine. So what is going on here? I am creating an object using the syntax here, and I expect this to call my default constructor here. But when I do this, I get this weird compiler error. So what is going on here? And we want to describe this to the search engine so that we can have a clear idea of what is happening here. Okay, so you go to your search engine, and now the task is, how do we describe this problem to the search engine? We are trying to call the default constructor through the syntax here. So my bet is you should say something like calling default constructor with parentheses, and we are getting a problem. We're going to see if anybody else has come across this problem here. So let's go to the search engine, and we're going to say that calling default constructor with parentheses, and we say that we are trying to figure this out for C++. We're going to let the search engine come up with things, and you see we have really good results here. Default constructor with empty brackets. This looks like what we want. Need brackets for default constructor. We can look at this. And parentheses confusion in C++, and we can also look at this. And you can keep opening other links that you think are going to be helpful for this. And here you see this guy had the same problem like we have here. He had tried to create an object using the parentheses here, and he is getting compiler errors. And if you look down here, people are going to say thanks. And you see the chosen answer here is saying Most Vexing Parse. So what is this? This is related to what is known as C++ Most Vexing Parse. Basically, anything that can be interpreted by the compiler as a function declaration will be interpreted as a function declaration. So this is our problem here. If we go back to our code, we're going to see that what we have here, we really are trying to create an object. But if you take another look, you're going to see that this looks like a function declaration here. Okay, so we have what looks like a return type for a function. we have the function name here, and we have the parentheses that signify that we want to call a function. So this could be interpreted like a function declaration by the compiler, and the compiler is going to think that this guy here is a function. What we're doing here is really trying to call something on the function name, and that's why we have this problem here. Please notice that we're going to get the same problem if, for example, we have a function called p1. Let's do that. We're going to say void p1, and we're going to put in a body. We're not going to do anything with this function, but if we try to call something on this function, we're going to get the same problem here. So the compiler is really treating this guy like a function declaration. Let's build again and show you that we have the same problem. Okay, so you see we have the same problem. So this guy here is being treated as a function declaration. Okay, now that we know the problem, we can fix it. We can try and use a syntax that is not going to confuse our compiler. And we have many choices we can choose from. For example, we can ignore the parentheses altogether, and this is going to call our default constructor here, because there is no way this can be mistaken as a function declaration. Now the compiler is going to know what to do, and if we build, we're going to see that the build is good. And if we run the application, let's run it. We're going to see that we're printing information about our point here. And this is really cool. We can also use braced initialization here. This is also going to work. There is no way the compiler is going to confuse this with a function declaration. And if we build, we're going to build fine. So hopefully this gives you an insight into how you can try to describe your own problems to the compiler. This is going to require you to have some understanding on the code you are using. For example, to be able to craft the message that we passed to our search engine here, we needed to know that we are attempting to call default constructor. We needed to know that we had to use parentheses to try and build our object. So we need a good understanding about C++ before we craft good messages that are going to tell the search engine what problem we are trying to solve. And search engines are really good at leading us to solutions to the problems. So if you are a learner in C++, please try your best and try to use search engines before you run to anybody, because in most cases you're going to be alone. And in most cases, if you try to ask somebody, that's going to take you time because they might be busy, they might be doing other things, they might not have time for you. But when it is about you and your search engine, you're going to get solution instantly. So this is a really good practice to nurture in your journey as a C++ developer. Okay, another thing some of you might find weird is it even possible to declare a function inside another function? Because we just did that, the compiler thought that this guy is a function declaration when we did something like this. So is it possible to declare a function inside another function? Let's talk about this. So we're going to go in main here and, for example, put a function. We're going to say void, and we're going to call it say my name, and we're going to tell it to say something. So we have a function here, and you see that we are declaring that in the main function here. And if we try to build this program, you're going to see that it's going to build fine, no problem here. If we happen to have a definition of this function somewhere, it is going to be picked up by the compiler and used inside the main function here. So for example, we can go below the main function and put a definition for this function here. And we're going to go inside, and for example, we can say your name is John. And if we go in the main function and try to say your name, we can say this. You're going to see that this is going to work. It's going to say your name is John, and then we're going to print information about our point here. So this is valid C++ code. You can declare a function inside another function. I know this is crazy, but it is possible. Let's build again to see our code running. We're going to see that the build is good. We can clear and run rooster, and you see your name is John, and we have information about our point here. So this is really all I wanted to share in this video. I hope you didn't find it confusing. Please share your tips on how you describe your problems to search engines so that you can really be self-reliant in solving your problems in your journey as a C++ developer. I am going to stop here, and I will see you next time.